any 3-month period. And I, talking politics, but had the presidential election gone differently, I'm sure that Governor Goldwater Senator Goldwater would have probably either said, let's get out of it and call it a bad decision, or would have won it in a matter of a few months, which would have been very easy to do because, we're a pretty powerful country and they're not. And finally, when it muddled down and we started bombing North Vietnam again under Nixon with the B-52s, and they stopped getting SAM missiles, so they were basically defenseless. We proved it was very easy to win, and then we lost the negotiations. So it was really frustrating to the guys, to us, but we did the best we could. And since we weren't allowed to win, all we could do was do a war of attrition, and hopefully psych out the poor guys on the other side. And we had protesters back here in the States doing their thing, and we were told through intel that these poor guys that had come down to fight, some of them got maimed. Well, they weren't, because it would be bad for morale, they weren't allowed to go back to North Vietnam. I mean, somebody would lose an arm or leg. They kept them in work camps in Laos because they thought it would be so bad for morale if we had all these people come back blown apart. So the morale was just really terrible, but they just kept hearing about the U.S. news and saying, well, if we just hang in there, we'll eventually beat these guys. And they were right, they did. The Green Bar support thing was wonderful. This guy Bingham, I got him out of that situation, and then sadly, a month later, he was on top of a hilltop with, I think there were 4 Green Berets and about 4 little guys. And they came up a fairly steep hilltop. They were on this top of this hill. And they just came elbow to elbow, marching. They were banging bamboo, kind of making sure they were even through the jungle. They heard them coming. They were throwing grenades down, and it was in the middle of the night. And they came up there, and they threw grenades down, and we put in airstrikes and killed an awful lot of North Vietnamese. They got to the top, and one of the guys nailed Bingham in the chest with machine gun fire, and AK-47, and shot him, and we lost him. And the guy who did survive, the other American up there, this guy went crazy. They shipped him back. So that was kind of sad. I had another great situation with Bingham, probably my best, more memorable combat mission was when I was first checking out doing this Green Beret mission. I was with a major who put a team in. I put a team in, they marched off the landing zone and disappeared, which means the bad guys got them. So we said, let's send the big group in. Let's send the toughies in. So we sent Bingham, and we had a group of 32 guys, and that's a huge team. Usually teams are pretty small. And we said, we're going to put them in the landing zone and let them go after and find out, find what happened to the guys we lost. So this major's flying, and he leads them in, and we put the helicopters in, and they come into the landing zone and touch down, and the guys get all out, and the helicopters take off. And we hear him on the radio. Said, uh-oh, what's the matter? He said, this isn't going to work. So what's the matter? He said, they were expecting us to come back and do this. And he says, there's bunkers built all around the landing zone. And we're talking about landing zones, an area probably about the size of 2/3 of a football field. That's all it is. It's a landing zone. It's just a little space in the jungle where it was tall grass instead of trees. And then we just picked that as a spot to go. And so he said, they're surrounded here. And we're surrounded. He said, we can't get off this place because we can just actually, we can look at them and they're looking back at us. They're just not shooting yet because they don't want to pinpoint it with the helicopters here. So we said, let's get out of here. So they said, okay, bring the helicopters back around. First helicopter lands, picks up some Green Berets, takes off, and as he's taking off, there's a tree, big tall tree off the end. Machine gun fire shoots the pilots. Helicopter does this and through the jungle. And went, ooh, this is not going to be easy. So he said, tell you what, we don't have that much extra gas. You guys sit tight. It's still middle afternoon. You guys go back, get some more gunships, refuel your helicopters. We'll come back and redo this. And he said, okay, Ross, you got it. You're in charge. So I said, okay, bye. And the major was, put the team in, went back to get gas, and they were going to refuel. And I'm sitting here holding hands, talking to these guys. And it was in a, mountains along here, and they're down here in this little landing zone, and then there's some more mountains up here. And so we're not that far from friendly territory, but it was kind of in a bowl, mountainous bowl. And so I'm just circling around, and I'm watching the whole, it looks like Christmas lights. There's just all these flashing and going, oh, Of course, they're shooting at me. They're not shooting at the Greens, they're shooting at me. Well, that's okay, that's fair. They tell us to fly 1,500 feet back in those days, because that's about the range for an AK-47 ground. And the 23s and 37s, of course, that's a whole other story. But the small stuff was pretty small. So we just circle and circle and circle. And so I figured, okay, well, it's time to do something. And the weather started closing because it was getting later afternoon. Pretty soon it was going to be overcast. And once it gets overcast, we can't get them. And then the North Vietnamese could overrun them. They had hundreds of guys. So, okay, well, how you guys coming? Boss, we got a little problem. What's the problem? The fuel pits here at Way are contaminated. So we can't refuel the OB-10 that I'm flying. We can't refuel the helicopters. Your guys are stuck out there. We can't go back out and help. So, well, okay, what are we going to do here? Tap, tap, tap. And meanwhile, I was circling, and not only are we, we were hitting, I'm watching these flashing go by, so I'm shooting a few rockets to kind of, discourage. I didn't even need rockets to mark targets because I couldn't put fighters in. So I called the Air Force and said, send rescue guys. And they said, sorry, we've got rescues in Laos going on. You're in Vietnam, you're on your own. And I said, well, but we really need rescues. We can't help you. So I said, how about send me some fighters? They said, well, the A-1s, the little ones that could do that, like this secret war thing, we don't have those guys. They're doing the rescues over there. And the jet fighters can't get in this little tiny hole in this little valley. I mean, there's no way they could get in and drop. So I'm firing my rockets down. I use all my rockets up. And meanwhile, my gas gauge is getting lower and lower and lower. So I pull the throttles back to use as little gas as possible. And I'm circling. And then occasionally I hear this tap, 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 tap on the side of my airplane. Like a little hammer hitting the side of my airplane. And I go, that's not nice. But I look back and there's no holes through the side of the airplane. And then we hear this ka-thunk. And I go, oh, that's not good either. Metal ka-thunk, and that wasn't good. So we keep circling, so I finally said, well, we're going to run out of ideas, and the clouds are closing in. So I got on the emergency radio. We have emergency radio we use worldwide. And I called on the radio and I said, hey, I'm on scene commander here. I got some guys. I got to get out of here. And our assets have bad gas. I can't rescue them. Anybody out here want to come over here to help out? And so there were some guys in the search and destroy with gunship helicopters. Says, hey, yeah, we'll come play. And some other guys said, yeah, we just dropped some supplies out for such and such, and yeah, we can come join in. So I kind of just chatted with these guys on the radio. I said, let's all go over this frequency. So I got off the emergency frequency, which is, that's just to round them up. And pretty soon I had myself, I think, 6 helicopter gunships and about 8 what we call slicks, passenger carrying, load carrying helicopters. And I said, guys, we're in a tight spot. They're surrounded. So we won't we'll make our own rules. And so we're going to go ahead and have you guys just start shooting up around them to keep their heads down. And by the way, at the end of the road, when I pointed out where the big tree was, and I said, that tree there's a machine gun nest that was manned and took a helicopter out. Meanwhile, by the way, the one pilot shot for the head. He's dead. The other pilot's banged up, but most of the guys survived the crash. So there was one Green Beret guy with a broken leg. There was bullet holes in the co-pilot, and the rest of the guys are banged up, but they're fighting their way back up. So we had the Green Beret team launch an attack at the enemy as these guys attacked from behind. Well, getting hit by both sides, they backed off, made a hole, and suddenly we had